Hello, today we're building a 10 by 14 shed. We're gonna go through each step together, making it simple and straightforward. This video is designed to be a helpful resource for you to make a decision whether you want to build or buy your shed. Along the way, I'm gonna be sharing tips and tricks that will help you on your own build. But first thing, we need to buy materials. And you can check the description for the full material list or visit everydayshed.com where you can find more details. So let's get started. Once you have located where you want your shed to be placed, you start digging for the footers. I recommend that you remove all the vegetation that's in the ground, either grass or anything. Once you dig past the grass, you add about 2 inches of gravel. That's gonna help with drainage and leveling the shed. I tamp it down with a concrete block, and using a 14-foot 4x4 skid, I am able to locate the opposite side of the shed. And I do the same thing on that side. And because it's such an uneven ground, I added a 12x12 paver, helping level out the shed. And once that is level, I work on the third footer that's in the center. For a 14-foot long shed, 3 footers works pretty good. If you have anything longer than a 14-foot shed, I recommend adding a 4th footer. I then move to the back of the shed and repeat the same process as I did on the front. 3 separate footers, evenly spaced out. Then in the middle, I add another set of 3 footers. And that is because this shed is over 10 feet wide. Anytime a shed is 10 feet or wider, I always add a third row in the center. It is now time to start framing the floor. And I start by laying the 2x6 right on top of the skids. The first thing you're trying to do is to build a box. That is so you can square it off and make sure that the building is square, and you can proceed laying out the rest of the lumber. To square off a building, you measure from corner to corner. The goal is to have equal length on these corners. You're gonna find yourself measuring the corner few times and moving the box in and out until you get the same measurement. Then I lay it out and cut to length every single joist. Then I nail them 16 inches apart. You can also screw them if you don't have a nail gun. And after I am done nailing the floor joist, I go back and I nail the flooring to the skids. And to complete the flooring, we lay down some subflooring panels. Before laying them down, make sure to apply some construction adhesive underneath. And when you nail this, try to nail them every 12 inches or so. With the floor built, the next step is logically to build the wall. But before we start building the wall, I like to get the rafters assembled and set on the side. That's because the flooring makes a very good platform for us to measure, cut, and assemble the rafters. Also, right on the floor, I build a jig. And the purpose for this jig is to help me build every rafter the same way. And as always, you can find plans for this build in the description or visit us at everydayshed.com. Now it's time to start framing the walls. I will start with the back wall since it's the easiest. It's a straight wall with no windows. This wall is 14 feet long. And if you want to know exactly how long to cut this lumber, you can check the description below, or you can visit us at everydayshed.com. We have material lists and plans that will help you build your own shed. And after I cut all the 2x4s and laid them out, I nailed them together. And this wall, for being so long, I only installed 2 sheets of siding. And that is because I was doing this by myself and did not have any help lifting the wall. With the first wall up and in place, I secure the side brackets to temporarily hold it. And then I'm able to finish hanging the siding. Again, if you're trying to do this by yourself, I recommend either you split the wall in two halves or you install the siding last. Now it's time for the side wall. The side wall is 10 feet long. This is a much more manageable wall to lift by yourself. After I finish framing the wall, I installed the LP Smart Siding. This wall took 2.5 full sheets of Smart Siding. Then you lift the wall and move it into place. Check for level and add some temporary braces to the wall. Just like the previous wall, we frame the wall first. This is a 10 feet long wall. And after reframing, we install the LP Smart Siding right over the frame. And when that's ready, we lift the wall in place. This time I had braces ready with me, which helped the process. When done, check for level. Now we move to the front wall. And the front wall is going to be pretty heavy. It's going to be framed for 2 windows and a door. That's when I decided to split the wall into 2 halves and frame it separately. The first half will have only a window. The second half of the wall will have a second window and a door. If you want to know the dimensions of all these cuts, this is a good time for you to visit everydayshed.com and find the plans for this shed and follow along. And once you are done framing the wall, it's time to lift the wall. And because it's such a heavy wall, we decided to add the sheeting afterwards. And at this point, I would nail both walls together and nail them to the floor. Also, this is a good time to throw on your top plate to make sure that the walls stay fixed. And with this wall up, it's time to sheet the wall with the LP Smart Siding. I did use some blocking underneath to help stand the sheeting as I nailed them throughout the wall. And as I do this, I cut the door opening with a circular saw, continue sheeting, and when it comes time to cut the windows, I traced it out and cut it with a circular saw. And at this point, I was about to start installing the rafters and I realized I haven't finished installing the top plate on the front and back walls. And after nailing the top plate, I started to install one rafter at a time. These rafters were 24 inches apart. And the way I like to do these is to add 2 nails to each rafter on each side. And with the rafter installed, now I'm able to finish the ends. I add some blocking to help nail the sheeting, and I finished up sheeting the sides. And when stacking the smart siding on the sides, I always install a Z flashing between the joints. It is now time to sheet the roof. Whenever I'm sheeting the roof, I like to add a 1x4 inch strip on the OSB. This is to act as a soffit. And as you nail the sheeting to the rafters, I like to keep a tape measurement with me. That way I measure that every rafter is 24 inches apart. That will keep them squared and you have a better chance of landing every nail on a rafter. And when I'm done nailing, I cut the sheeting excess right off the roof. And what I like to do next is add the trim around the whole roof line. And that is because the drip edge will sit right on top of it. And while you're trimming the roof line, might as well trim the side walls. And before you add the drip edges, it's time to add the roof underlayment. I see many shed companies skipping this process. It's very inexpensive to add this, and it does provide an extra layer of protection against rain. As far as drip edge, remember the drip edge on the sides go over the roof underlayment paper, and the drip edge on the front and back will go underneath the roof underlayment. And before we start shingling the roof, I add this gaff starting strip on the sides, front, and back of the shed. Then it's time to install the shingles on the roof. Pretty simple process, just very time consuming. And obviously, carrying the shingles up the roof, it's a pretty heavy job. And once you have them on the roof, you just stagger them and install from the bottom upwards. And after you're done shingling the whole roof, it's time to add the shingles on the ridge. I use the same shingles that I installed on the roof. I just cut each tab separately and I install them on the ridge. Now we move on to installing the windows. The first thing I do is install the flashing tape. Again, this is another feature that many shed builders skip. And after I'm done flashing the windows, I dry fit them in place. And before installing the window, I like to add silicone all around. Also, when installing these windows, make sure to keep them a quarter of an inch above the sill plate. And to keep them in place, I use galvanized nails on every slot of the window. And then I add a second layer of sealant tape over the whole window. And as far as trimming the window and doors, I use 1x4 LP smart trims. I cut each section to length and I nail them to the wall. For this particular install, I had a client supplied door, which means I did not have a door frame installed. I had to make my own door frame. I used a small jig to hold the door from the ground up, and then I was able to screw in the door on the sides and finish the door that way. When you decide to build this shed, make sure to set aside a couple weekends for this project. To make it easier for you, we have plans and material lists right in the description that will show you all the cuts and dimensions needed for this shed. So make sure you check that out or visit us at everydayshed.com. And if you like this build but you wish that the shed was just a bit smaller for you, check out this next video where I walk you through step by step on how to build an 8x8 shed. I hope you learned something from this video and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye.